Okay, are we ready? Okay, we'll go ahead and start. Good morning, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission Advisory Review Panel, convened to review the fiscal year 22 Arts Organization Support Grant Program applications for Region 7. I'm Alan Platt, an IAC Commissioner from Floyd's Knobs. Today is Thursday, April 29th, 2021, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. As a reminder, there is to be no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and then staff to introduce themselves. Panelists will state their name, occupation, and where they are from in the state, and staff will state their title and role. Let's start with the panel. I will start by introducing each of you just by your first name so you can share about yourself. Liz?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Ale. I live in downtown Indianapolis. I work at the Eiteljorp Museum as the Collections Information Assistant.
Nina?
Hey, Nina, you're muted.
I thought he was unmuting us. Sorry about that. My name is Nina Sunsef, and I live in Indianapolis, and I'm the Grant Administration Director for Damar Foundation.
Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul Daly. I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, and I'm the Associate Artistic Director with Bloomington Playwrights Project.
Terry?
Good morning. I'm Terry Witt Bailey. I currently serve as the Vice President and Chief Programs Officer for the Center for Leadership Development. I live in Muncie and was once the founding director of Cornerstone Center for the Arts. Also was president of the Madam Walker Theater Center.
Welcome and thank you. Let's move on to our staff. Our staff, please provide your name, title, and role here today. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Haynes, Arts Education and Accessibility Program Manager at the Indiana Arts Commission, and I am the Grants Manager for Region 7, Central Indiana.
Maya?
Hi, Maya Michelson, Deputy Director of the Indiana Arts Commission.
And Ben?
Hi, I'm Benjamin Thomas, Indiana Arts Commission intern and technical support for this panel.
And Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria, and I am also an intern at Indiana Arts Commission and also will be supporting the panel.
Okay. And I do want to ask Stephanie, who will be speaking related to the...
Maya.
Okay, Maya, at this time I'll invite Maya then to, from the Indiana Arts Commission to say a few words.
Thanks, Alan. Before we start, I want to share a few words on behalf of the Indiana Arts Commission. First and foremost, thank you so much to panelists for sharing your time and expertise. This year, you've participated to prepare for the work, which included how to reduce implicit bias in the review process. You've come alongside us with a new application and panel process, and you've spent many hours reviewing these applications and lending your expertise to ensure a high quality process. So to everyone here and to everyone listening in, I want to say a few words about why this year's panel process is different. And if you're a longtime panel observer, you'll soon discover that. We've been very clear from the beginning of this upcoming grant cycle in our guidelines and our application and in our training that our focus this year would be on what's important, what's most important right now. And that's to responsibly support our arts organizations at this critical time. And that means for this grant cycle, supporting organizations that demonstrate they are operating and will continue to operate during the FY22 grant period. We will support. As a result of those changes, you might hear very little dialogue and feedback about individual grant applicants. That in no way reflects a lack of dedication to a thorough evaluation process. it's merely a reflection of the unique time and unique process that we're going through this year. So again, thank you. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks to our applicants. Thanks to everyone who's watching for all you do for the arts in Indiana.
Thanks, Maya. Now we'll begin the panel review. This is how the process will work. The panel will first review the application pool for operating support and then for merit award consideration. Each has a distinct process. For both processes, if a panelist has a conflict of interest, that panelist will be placed on hold while the application is reviewed. However, we understand that there are no conflicts of interest on this panel. Let me first go over the review process for operating support. In this process, panelists will be coming to consensus. They will use a summary sheet that has the results of their individual pre-panel assessments, which were based upon organizational resiliency. The panel will come to consensus for each application to make one of the following recommendations to the Indiana Arts Commission. Yes, recommend for full application as is. No, do not recommend funding the application. Or yes, recommend funding the application with required modifications. The required modifications will be determined by the panel. This means IAC and partners will follow up with the applicants after the panel to collect information to ensure panelists' concerns are addressed. Once a decision has been made for each application, the staff will record the decision. Once the review for operating support is complete, we'll move on to the merit process. Or we may take a short break at that time, depending on where we are, and I will check in with all of you. For the merit review process, all applicants that elected to submit for merit consideration were assigned a reader, and today the panel will use the reader process to discuss applications. Because of competitiveness of the program, those applications whose average score ranked in the top 10 from the pre-assessment will be discussed today. The reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria. Panelists, please note there's no need to provide a recap of what was submitted since everyone has already read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. In the interest of time, we are only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. Once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion. These scores save automatically. So are there any questions from anyone? And we'll give you a moment to unmute if you have one, or please wave. Are there any? Okay. Okay, then we'll begin. We'll start the panel for operating support. So on the screen is the list of applications that will be reviewed today. They are in alphabetical order. To begin the review for operating support, panelists, please draw your attention to your resiliency assessment summary sheet. We'll start a review in batches where there's consensus. Panelists, I want to draw your attention to the rows in green on your summary sheet. These are where you have consensus to recommend the applications for funding. So take a moment to review the list in green. Do any of you have any concerns about recommending any of these applications for funding? And again, I'll give you a moment to signal or, okay, thank you. There's no concerns and we're recommending with consensus yes here. We're going to, I do want to ask, does the panel agree to recommend these applications for funding? So for yes, if you can give me a thumbs up, either yourself or the on-screen thumbs up. Okay, I've got one from Liz, Nina, Paul, Terry, and I see your thumbs up, and thank you. We have consensus. Okay. Staff, please take note. We have a consensus. Panelists recommend the following applications for funding. Those are the American Cabaret Theater Inc., DBA the Cabaret, American Pianists Association, ArtMix Inc., Claude McNeal's Musical Theater Training Program Inc., Dance Kaleidoscope, Fine Arts Society of Indianapolis, Harrison Center for the Arts Inc., Indiana Artisan Inc., Indianapolis Women's Chorus, Indianapolis Suzuki Academy. Okay. So great, we've gotten through that part and we're making progress. We'll now go to the going on to look at the applications where there is yeses, but with modifications. And at this point, we're going to utilize, we'll have guidance from the panel to see which modifications you have. So I think we'll go through the list and we'll just go through those one at a time. Is that from your prior panel, Stephanie? We'll just do those one at a time. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just go ahead and introduce the name of the application and hand it back to the panel to discuss.
Excellent. Thank you. So we'll start, everyone, on your list in the non-green, of course, booth, Tarkington Civic Theater. Is there anyone who has?
There's one more. Are we starting with Actors Theater of Indiana? Do other people have that on the top of their list?
You know, it has, when I made an edit, it unfortunately came off. So let me correct that. Yes. Actors Theater of Indiana. I apologize. Thank you.
Yep.
So let's go back and start with Actors Theater of Indiana. Are there any, please make comments related to modifications that you have identified or recommend?
Yes, so I was impressed by the organization's efforts to make a tiered threshold for membership. They also did a good job to offset their losses during the pandemic by cutting their expenses and applying for more grant funding. But I would like to see more detail about their ongoing planning and their strategy to maintain their stability and increase their financial liquidity post-pandemic. I did not think that there was enough evidence of the planning there.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
I'll jump in and agree with Liz. That's exactly what I saw. They've done some really amazing pivoting in the midst of the pandemic, Facebook Live performances, drive-in performances. I wasn't sure how the pandemic shifted their future and how they were going to come out of the pandemic. So I just would have liked to have seen more foresight in the pandemic planning about what it would look like post-pandemic.
Thank you. Any other comments related to modifications? Okay, so what I believe I understand is that the panel would like to see some additional detail from this applicant on ongoing planning, stability, and liquidity post-pandemic. Is that a fair assessment of that or summary of that? Okay. Staff, do you have a record of the modification?
Yes, and so go ahead and ask them to all confirm that. Yep, I got it. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. So does the panel recommend that let me get back to this, that the Arts Theater of Indiana
Actors Theater
with the required modifications cited by the panel that we just discussed? Okay. And I'm flipping back. I see thumbs up from our panelists. Terry, yes. Okay. Thank you. And Steph, you have those notes. Very good. Thank you.
5 seconds to navigate to the next application. That would be great.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to make sure that I have not messed up my chart. Just want to confirm that Booth Tarkington Civic Theater is the next one once you have a chance.
Yep, Booth Tarkington.
Tarkington, thank you. Okay. Next will be Booth Tarkington Civic Theater. And does the panel have or share information related to modifications that you would recommend? Could you share those, please? Are there any?
Certainly, I can jump in here. So the organization was definitely able to make up for most of their losses in income in fiscal year 20 and 21. However, I did notice a bit of a problematic over-reliance on contributed income. So to account for these concerns, and I'd like to see documentation of the newly created cash flow model that they mentioned they had created, and potentially a plan for diversifying their income stream so they aren't so reliant on that contributed income that may dry up somewhat post-pandemic.
Okay. And would you repeat the second piece of that? I have the documentation of the new cash flow plan, and the next one was?
I believe I mentioned diversifying their income so that it's not so overly reliant on contributed income.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. So does the panel recommend that Booth Tarkington Civic Theater be approved for funding with the some new documentation related to the new cash flow plan and diversification of their income related to, or no, not overly heavily reliant upon contributed income? Okay. And staff, I probably did a poor job of summarizing that, but you have the notes on that, of course.
I do.
Okay. And Stephanie, I'll give you a minute then to navigate to the next one. You ready for that one? Okay. We'll move on to the Carmel Symphony Orchestra. And panelists, would you please share any thoughts, required modifications to allow for recommendation of funding? Oh, Anina, I think you need to unmute. Sorry, that's okay. Well, you're still muted there.
I keep thinking Ben is going to do that, and that's
no.
Okay. Let me go back to the screen. Hold on. It's understandable that the organization has weathered some difficult passages in 2020, as I think are indicative of 2020. And I thought that the board involvement was a good strength. And the city and the major donor emergency support was also good. But I have a concern about too much reliance on grant funding going forward. I know that that's sensible in the short term, but I'm not sure how fiscally prudent it will be in the future. I'd like to see the plan to deal with staffing and bringing the budget into a more balanced mix of income sources, advancing the art form, and a plan to reach more diverse audiences.
Okay. Any other comments from other panelists on that or other modifications? Okay, so
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Alan, just want to add that in their application, the organization does acknowledge that they were pretty reliant on grant funding, with the recognition that they're going to need to adjust these expenses and income sources post-pandemic. So that was a positive for me there, that they recognize it.
Okay. So I think what I hear is that the documentation we'd like to see would be, again, diversity of income sources, and then also information related to adjustment of expenses to address that budget issue and that over-reliance perhaps on grant funding. Is that correct?
Alan, I apologize. I'd also like more information about the significant cuts they made to staffing during the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was one of my concerns too, that they need, I'd like to see a plan for addressing the staffing issue.
Okay, so that would be, I guess, a third piece. So first would be the over-reliance on grant funding, adjustment of expenses, and then also to have some information about the significant cuts to staffing and what the plan for that moving forward might look like. Is that fair, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with those changes or modifications, does the panel recommend Carmel Symphony Orchestra be funded with the required modifications cited by the panel? And I'll switch here if you'll give me a thumbs up, everyone. And I see thumbs up. Thank you. And staff, do you have that recorded, a record of the modification we discussed? Thank you. Okay. We'll modify. We will move forward on to the next applicant. And I apologize, everyone, since I'm working from home today. I'm trying to navigate 3 different screens at the same time. So I appreciate your patience. Next would be the Heartland Film Inc. Stephanie, give me a thumbs up when you're ready for that. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then if the panelist would provide us information related to recommended modifications for this applicant.
I apologize for speaking so much, but it appears I was the only one who had recommended modifications. So feel free to jump in. But I was very appreciative of Heartland's dedication to continuing to advance the art form. However, they did experience pretty significant losses in 20 and expected similar losses in 21. So for those reasons, I would like to see more information about their plans for growth and sustainability in the future, which they had mentioned they were working on, but I'd like to see potentially their specific action steps and their strategic plan related to this.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have, I think their phrase ensure organizational survival question needs some examples of what they say they've done regarding cost controlling and flex staffing and new programs introduced. I think it's very laudable that they did a new strategic plan in December of 2020. I thought that was a bold move and a good move. I would recommend that the board meet more often and reach a threshold of 6 times per year. And really that's basically, those are my concerns too. I would like to have seen a little more examples of additional ways that they preserve and their art form, and besides their strict jury selection, which they did mention, and that was good.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so let me see if I can summarize. It looks like that there's a desire for them to provide a bit of an action plan related to their growth and sustainability, and information, kind of a cost control plan moving forward. Some discussion or information about perhaps additional meetings of the board or a large number of meetings, and also information on ways to preserve the art form that they might be doing other than their juried work. Is that capture all of those? Okay. All right, then with that summary, what does the panel recommend the Heartland Film Inc. to be funded with those required modifications cited by the panel? Thumbs up here. I see thumbs up, and Terry's there's Terry. Thank you. All right, staff, you have a summary of those in your notes. Very good. Then we will move on to the next one, which will be Hoosier Salon Patrons Association. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open it up to the panelists to provide information about modifications or desired modifications for Hoosier Salon Patron Association. You can unmute and share those thoughts. Does anyone have anything, or are we maybe? Terry?
Yes, I think that in terms of this organization, they've done a great job, if I remember reading correctly, operating without an executive director for a short period of time. It also appears that they have very strong board support, and that is always helpful in an interim time like that. I think that it would be helpful to us as well as to their patrons and constituents and stakeholders to know what the plan is and how they plan to move forward. We don't need to know the why, but we'd like to know how this organization will move forward, plan for staffing, plan for organizational resiliency. They have quite a bit to offer for our community, especially in Region 7. And so we look forward to seeing how they will move forward.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so it looks like that the recommendation would be for a plan on moving forward related to staffing, as well as organizational resiliency, and some information on those items. Okay, great, excellent. Then does the panel recommend Hoosier Salon Patron Association to be funded with the required modifications cited by the panel? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yep. Okay, and staff, do you have notes related to those? Excellent. Thank you. We'll now move on to Pattern Inc. And once Stephanie is ready for that, I just switched over. We're good. Thank you. And panelists, please unmute and share with us the recommendations or modification that you have for Patterns Inc.
So Patterns Inc. is another great organization doing good work during the pandemic. So what I saw was that they're apparently doing this great work with no employees. The volunteers were listed as 0. The full-time and part-time were listed as 0. Mm-hmm. It's probably a contract employee that's helping run it, but that was never outlined in the narrative. So as far as I could take away from the application, there's no employees, which just would be a concern. I'm sure it's an easy correction to get back to the IAC and say that it's run by contract employees, but I just like that information.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. I agree with you. I will say that the IAC knows that there was a shortcoming in our application. We didn't have anywhere for them to reflect that contract position. So I agree that's probably likely, but we can follow up with that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I did see in another application where they specifically talked about their contract employee in the narrative. So I just... Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to take a little bit of the heat for that.
Did anyone have anything different or unique from the comment Paul just shared? Okay.
I had under organizational resilience, they answered the 2 questions, quote, yes, a few times, regarding community engagement with financial supporters and community engagement with those that they serve. And I would have wanted to see a little more information about that, and I wonder whether what they said was enough. But I think their organization is a very unique one, and I understand the use of contractors in the context of their organizational structure. So that perhaps was less of a concern to me, but I recognize their uniqueness in that regard. So anyway, I didn't have strong concerns about this organization. I think that they're a very interesting model for a nonprofit in the arts.
I like the fact that they call themselves a unicorn.
Yeah, I agree.
They are.
Yeah.
So Nina, as far as arriving at a recommended modification, do you believe that we need added information on organizational resiliency?
Oh, I'm kind of conflicted about that. I would be okay with not having that submitted by them.
Okay.
I don't think that was a really strong concern of mine. So if that modification doesn't have to come about, I'm fine with that.
So then would everybody be okay with kind of the consensus of getting some additional information on the staffing as it relates perhaps to a contract employee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alan, I do have an additional concern I wanted to raise.
Okay, please.
So the organization did an incredible job shifting their operations and starting this new Stitchworks portion of their operations that was actually able to generate a profit due to, I believe, making masks and selling those to the public. However, I am concerned because this is such a lean organization. The fact that they budgeted so much in their expenses for Stitchworks going forward, I am assuming that the demand for masks will kind of dry up in the future as the pandemic wanes. And I did not see enough evidence that Stitchworks is going to continue to be profitable past a time when these pandemic supplies are warranted. So it's very possible that it could continue. I believe it was almost $300,000 invested into this program for their expenses, which was a similar level as fiscal year 20. But I just didn't see enough evidence that they would be able to modify their operations to continue being profitable there.
Okay, so would that look like either some additional evidence on income replacement or just operations modification to address that change post-pandemic? Okay, so everybody just signal if we have a consensus on asking for those two pieces of information related to staffing to address the contract employee situation, and then additional information on income replacement related to Stitchworks budget, that budget piece. Okay, excellent. All right, then panelists, let me just do it formally. So does the panel recommend that Patterns Inc. be funded with the required modification cited by the panel? And then one more thumbs up from everyone on that. Yes, thank you. And staff, you've got your notes. Excellent. Okay, let's navigate to the next one. I changed screens, so Stephanie, if you gave me the thumbs up, I didn't see it. Nope, okay, not yet. Thank you.
Ready.
Oh. Thank you. So the New Harmony project, we'll turn to that, and if the panelist, whoever has recommended modifications, would unmute and share those with us.
I believe I was the only one again. I again see a potential over-reliance on contributed income. However, this organization did a good job sharing that they're working on a growth-based strategic plan. So just to assuage these concerns somewhat, I would like to see a bit more information about what went into that planning process to ensure growth and stability post-pandemic.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I want to check with the rest of the panel. Liz's comment I think would bring or ask for additional information for the planning process for growth post-pandemic, especially given that there's kind of maybe an over-reliance on contributed income. Is that fair? Okay. And then I would just go ahead and ask for thumbs up if the panel recommends that the new Harmony project be funded with the required modification we just cited. And I'll see your pictures here in a second. There they are. Hello. Picture, thumbs up. And Terry, you're good. Okay. And staff, you have notes on that as well? Thank you. All right. I think we're through all those. Great. So we've made it. We're making progress again. Thanks again for your patience while I flip back and forth here. Next, going to look at the applications. Let's see where we had. Actually, I think we're all the way to.
Yeah, we are done with the resiliency section.
Yeah, so we're on to merit award consideration, correct?
Good job, everybody. Do we need a break? Would we like to take a 2-minute break, or you want to keep going?
Yeah.
Break? Okay, I saw a head nod for a break.
If there's a head nod, we'll take a break. Okay, let's take 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll resume as soon as everyone's back. Thank you. Okay. I think we have everybody back. Great. There we go. Okay, we'll go ahead and resume, and we'll go ahead and move to the merit award consideration. As a reminder, this is a different process. In this process, unlike the last, panelists will provide their assessment of the application's merit award submission and update their scores based upon the discussion we have. Panelists, please refer to the merit award consideration list. We'll start with the application for Actors Theater of Indiana. The reader is Paul Daly. Paul, go ahead.
Great. So the Actors Theater of Indiana really responded well, I think, to the pandemic. Taking on a new way of delivering programming in the midst of a pandemic is a tremendous challenge. And ATI was able to create and deliver their drive-in performances in a very short amount of time, which is extremely impressive. And they did a lot of work to involve partner organizations, and I really liked seeing that. What I didn't really see were efforts to engage underserved communities. So these efforts undertaken by ATI, while certainly commendable, required attendees to have a car or the internet, and these are the types of services that attendees without that access, they're the ones that are underserved. So that's what I saw.
Okay. Does anyone else have any different or additional comments? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, Paul. And then if there's no additional comments, please finalize your scores. If you need to make any changes, you can do that now and update them online and update your online comments. I'll give you a moment here and then we'll move on. If anyone needs additional time, give me a signal. Oh, Nina, okay. Yep, I'll wait just a second. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. There you go, thank you. Okay, excellent. We'll move on then to the next merit funding narrative here for the reading list, which is American Cabaret Theater, and our reader is Terry Bailey.
Okay, thank you. In 2020, because of their creativity and resiliency, I believe they were able to diversify their audiences by providing over 500 archived performance videos. And I was actually very impressed that they had over 1 million social media views, not only in the United States, but in 9 countries. They also have pivoted to, again, diversify their board as well as the audiences that they have by working with a consultant who actually works for the city of Indianapolis on organizational diversity, equity, and inclusiveness policies. They've created a monthly speaker series for Black youth to share their stories. And so they're doing some things that are outside of their own creative box that I think are going to help them, again, to sustain their organization, to build their audiences, and to continue to grow.
Thank you, Terry. Are there any new, additional, or opposing comments from other panelists?
I would just like to add, I was also impressed by their dedication to DEAI initiatives. However, I would have liked to see more information, and it would have strengthened their application if they focused on diversifying internally as well as their external stakeholders. I didn't see much evidence of the internal diversification, and that's incredibly important for making sure that we're speaking to the audiences that we're building these programs for.
Thank you, Liz.
I could add to that again. I think that that was one of the reasons why they have acquired a consultant so that they can look at some of those internal diversity issues that they have.
I think that their time off comment in the narrative was indicative of that. I thought it was very strong on diversity inclusion.
Thank you, Nina. Any additional or different comments from anyone? Okay,
Oh,
then
I'm sorry. I will
please.
just jump in quickly.
Sure.
I agree with most of what's been said, certainly, especially about the DEIA work that they've done. I found it interesting to hear Terry say that they're thinking outside the box and kind of doing some new things. My takeaway from it was that the response to the pandemic on their part was not particularly innovative. Certainly good, solid work. It just didn't stand out to me as being innovative.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Here now, let's go ahead and then finalize your scores and comments online. Does anyone need any additional time for that one? Okay, thank you. I think we're good. We'll move on to our next applicant, ArtMix Inc. Liz Ale is our merit reader.
Yes, ArtMix showed an exceptional dedication to underserved audiences in this merit application. Especially their focus on what they call urban artisan students, welcoming them back into the studios with the realization that because many of their students do have developmental disabilities, this in-person engagement is very important, and it's important to work with them to figure out how best to do this. So I was very impressed by that. However, I would have been, this application would have been strengthened if they had been able to show some sort of survey or outreach that they did to these students to ensure that they were meeting their needs appropriately.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Any additional different or opposing comments? Terry?
I'd like to add that with this organization and the clientele that they serve, sticking to a routine is very critical. And I believe that this organization did the best that they could to stick with that type of routine in order to benefit the clientele.
Thank you. Nina?
I have a comment, and that is, I think it would be interesting to see how their clients readjust back into in-person classes. I work with developmentally disabled kids at Daymar, and I know very well what they were saying about the difficulty in adjusting. I'd like to, just as that's a side comment, I'd like to see how their clients readjust. I think it would be very interesting for the disability community and also for those who work with them. It's a laudable organization.
Thank you for those comments. And then anyone else? Okay, panelists, go ahead and finalize your score and online comments. Does anyone need any additional time? All right, thank you. We'll next move to Dance Kaleidoscope, and our reader is Nina. You'll need to unmute, yeah, when you get a chance. Sorry.
I'm having a little trouble pulling it up. 1 minute, okay?
No worries, thank you.
What really shone to me in their merit narrative was their move to to an underserved area of Indianapolis, and to their part in revitalizing the Indy's near East Side neighborhood. That was stellar to me. I was very excited about that. And their commitment to this area and to what they can do in the mix of that area, to me, really shone through in this application. I really commend them, and I'm excited for them, and I'm really interested to see how it all plays out. I just really welcome that. I really thought that their response to the pandemic in terms of creating virtual programming was very good too. I liked their Dancing Alone Together initiative. I thought that title really it struck me as being very appropriate for the time. And I really liked what they did with the kids' virtual dance classes. So I think that their merit consideration, I support it highly.
Thank you. Any additional different or opposing comments? Okay. If the panelists will go ahead and finalize your scores and update any online comments. Does anyone need additional time? Okay, thank you. Next applicant is the Fine Arts Society of Indianapolis, Classical Music Indy. Paul Daly is our reader.
This one for me was very simple. Classical Music Indy responded directly to the needs of senior residential partners during the pandemic, which was a particularly hard-hit group of citizens underserved at this time. And I thank Classical Music Indy for doing that work.
Thank you, Paul. Any additional comments from anyone?
I'd also like to add that they did a really great job at using feedback directly from senior centers and the seniors themselves. And it was also commendable that they made a personalized experience for their constituents.
Thanks, Liz. Anyone else? Okay. Please go ahead and finalize your scores and online comments. Okay, excellent. Anyone need any extra time? Oh yeah, sure, go ahead, Nina, take your time. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move to our next one. If I get my screen up here. Harrison Center for the Arts, and Terry is our reader.
Yes, Harrison Center for the Arts. According to their application, they listened to their community, and they were, and I have to quote this, the community said that they were scared, lonely, and needed art, more than ever. That's just so on target. And I love the fact that this organization affects people internally as well as externally as they work with local artists, visual artists, and they work with the people in their surrounding community. They provide specific information through interacting and talking with artists, as well as interacting and talking with community members. They pivoted their holiday window to explore COVID and racial injustice. And I thought that that was, again, a creative way to look at helping people to not feel scared and lonely and needing art more than ever. They also said that they delivered scones by drone. I'm not sure if that's legal, but I'm sure that they were delicious. But I really like the fact that, again, that they're working internally with the artists as well as externally with their surrounding community.
Unidentified flying scone. Okay, that's awesome. Any other comments, additional or different from anyone? Great. Okay, go ahead and please finalize your scores and online comments. Okay. Does anyone need additional time? Thank you. And we will move to, there it is, Heartland Film Inc. Nina. You're still muted. I know.
It's okay. It's okay.
Am I ever going to learn this? Oh my word.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry about that. Let me go forth now. I was very impressed with their outreach at the beginning stages of the pandemic to, a survey via the newsletter and then following up with personal emails. I thought that they did an outstanding job for that. And I liked how they pivoted to the hybrid format for their films. I saw a lot of what they do normally in how they created their hybrid format. So I think that what they did follows in many respects with what they have been doing, which I thought they were going into the pandemic hybrid format using their strengths from the past. And I like that. I think they know really pretty clearly what they are all about and what they're doing. I like their outreach to the disability community with their Easter Seals Film Challenge. I always like to see disability included in diversity and inclusion. I also really like their what they did with the just a minute, I'm reading from my notes here. With the documentary feature winner of 76 called 76 Days, and how they worked with the winner to donate the cash prizes to Brown Girls Doc Mafia. I thought their application was really strong. I did. I didn't see anything hugely outstanding in it, but on the other hand, this is an organization that knows themselves really well, and I think that they took all the right steps to do what they needed to do in the pandemic.
Thank you, Nina. Any additional or different comments from our panelists? Okay. Would you all go ahead and finalize your scores and comments? Is everybody ready to move on? Thank you. Okay. Our next one will be Indiana Artisan. Paul.
So Indiana Artisans is doing several things that I like. They're making strides to diversify and create more equity, which are really important, good steps. The work they're doing in Orange County is important, getting some arts in underserved area. The idea of a show of work by artists with autism is admirable. What I also saw was a presentation of safe demonstrations, whether that was through Facebook or live in person. It seemed a continuation of their earlier work and not necessarily a response to helping underserved communities during the pandemic, nor did it strike me as a new imagining of how to fulfill their mission. So it was a mix for me.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments?
I'd also add that although the organization has made a good start with DEAI initiatives, in particular, I'd like to discuss how they are going to set up booths in underserved areas. However, I would like to see more evidence that they are specifically talking to and marketing to these groups, because just if they build it, we will, or if we build it, they will come mentality often doesn't work when we're trying to do these targeted initiatives.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the panelists? Okay, please go ahead and finalize your scores and comments. And are we ready to move on? Okay. We'll next move to Pattern Inc. Liz.
This Pattern showed an exceptional commitment to underserved audiences during the pandemic, especially with the combined issues of the pandemic that disproportionately affected people of color, as well as the rise in demands for equality. So they're very aware of these intertwined issues, and by contributing their time and financial resources to the mural projects, they were able to directly influence and help the local community. I also thought it was particularly relevant that this is such a small institution that their monetary contribution to this mural project is especially admirable.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and finalize scores and comments, please. If everyone's ready, we'll move on to our final applicant, which is the New Harmony Project, Inc. Terry is our reader.
There we go. The New Harmony Project, very eclectic organization. They do quite a few different things, and I was most interested in their Sunrise series, where they solicited writings from 17 writers, took those and selected 7 of them to do stories and make short films. Again, being able to tell stories from a different perspective, using social media, which is something that I think they do quite well. I'm also interested to know and see more about their exploration and their production of Black Utopia. That seemed very interesting to me. I know when we're working on applications, grant applications, you only have so many words that you can put in an application, and I sure am looking forward to seeing what New Harmony is going to do with that project.
Terry, any other comments, additional or different? Okay, please finalize your scores and comments. Okay, everyone finished with those? Terry, Liz, Nina, and Paul, I just want to thank you all for your work, your excellent panel. And this concludes the Arts Organization Support Grant panel for this morning. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant by email in June of this year. If you have any questions, please contact this region's program manager, Stephanie Haynes. Again, I want to thank everyone on behalf of the Indiana Arts Commission for your work and being with us.